Hi guys, welcome back to another video. I have another boneyard project that I took on that I thought you guys might be interested in. I got an MP7. So this is actually a WE, I think they call it the small rice. And I got this boneyard. It has some issues. I've worked on one of these a few times before. I know there can be a problem. Issues we have with this one so far is that it pretty much just trips into auto and it runs away as well. Basically, we're going to pull it apart and see if we can find anything that's obviously wrong with it, so we can order up some parts to get this fixed and back up and running. So magazine does actually hold gas. I was actually told that the magazine leaked. However, its ability to lock the bolt open is diminished. So I think the little it gets a bit stuck. You can see here that sometimes it doesn't go all the way to the top, it sort of sticks a bit down. But magazine, we're pretty good. So, stripping the MP7 apart, you have to push the two rear pins out. You do have these little holes in the stock to retain the pins as well, which is what the real steel one is like as well. And then you can pull some of the internals straight out the back. And what this is we've got a bolt carrier here, you've got your guides for your stock, and also it's got the recoil guide rod as well, and the charging handle. So if we lift the charging handle, you can remove the bolt. All of this I expect to be all okay. We do have, I think, potentially the aluminium retainer for the stock. Let's just see if that is alloy. No, it is steel. Okay, so that's good. Originally, a lot of them were alloy and they just wore out really fast. But this one's got the steel one, which is good. All the rest of this looks pretty good, so we're not going to mess with that too much. So let's have a quick look at our bolt, see what we've got. Nozzle appears to be okay. Nozzle spring, it does return, but that's not quite right. Contact surfaces on the bolt, I think that one bit there is for the auto sear, that seems to be okay. Bolt retention, I think that's what this little bit of steel is, but it has been filed down. So I don't know whether that's going to stop us locking back. So we're probably going to have the bolt apart and have a quick look and check, see what's going on with the nozzle spring there, because that does seem odd. Now I'm going to have to refresh my memory on how to get the internals out of this, because I can't really remember. It's been a while since I've messed around with one of these. So I think from what I remember, I have to remove the selector and the bolt catch. And I think then I can slide the internals out. I think you have to drift the pin out for the trigger as well. Let's just pull it apart. Let's just try, see what we can do. Because again, it's been a while since I've worked on one of these. It was like pretty much one of the first things I really worked on. That doesn't seem to have a screw in it anyway, to be fair. Yep, that's it. That doesn't even have a thing in it. Yeah, it was just something that I got really, really cheap, and I'd never worked on one before, so I thought I'd have a good, quick go. And yeah, overall it seemed pretty good. Selector has super glue on it. Wonderful. Well, we're going to need a new one of those then, aren't we? Obviously. All right, let's take the bolt catch out. I bet that one was the right size. Oh, it would be, wouldn't it? It's the one I've broken in half. Well, thankfully it's not done up tight. I can probably undo it by hand. Yeah, there we go. Right, that's out. And then I think I have to, from what I remember, I have to push this pin out as well. Yeah, there we go. Right, hopefully now this internal frame will want to come out. Yeah, it looks like it will. So I think I can pull the trigger out in place. That's it. There's our internal. So that's literally it then. It's just, that is now just an empty shell. Now, I know that the information I got from the person I purchased this from, he did say that the hop-up doesn't work. Now, you adjust the hop-up with a screw in the front here. Adjusts this sort of arm, which then adjusts the hop-up. I will have a look at that in a little bit, but right now I'm not too fussed. Really, I want to see what's going on with the internals in here, and you can see that the hammer and everything's quite chunky. They're not super weak. They're not the strongest things in the world either, but they're all plated, which is good, which just sort of really helps longevity. It doesn't look that bad in here, to be honest. I genuinely thought it would look worse. Now, that's your disconnector. That all seems to be okay. And that is what pulls forward. So as you pull the trigger, it obviously pulls forwards on that, and that obviously then releases the sear on the hammer, and the hammer goes flying forwards. But at the moment it's held with the auto sear, which is that there. Now on the auto sear, it does look like the hammer is very worn. So that might be why. So yeah, as this goes forwards, this should now drop the hammer. There we go. So as that comes forwards, that should trip the auto sear, which it actually does, to be fair. Okay, that seems to work all right. And then this should drop the hammer, which it now does. And then as the bolt comes back, we can see that cocks the action. And then as that comes forwards again, that should drop the auto sear. Okay, well it seems to drop the auto sear okay. So I'm not entirely sure why we're tripping into full auto. This is for your bolt lock. Oh, okay, well that spring is not the original spring. That's probably why the bolt lock doesn't work very well, because I think that spring is too strong. Let's get a different spring. This one is, yeah, it's not quite as tight as that one. It's a bit more manageable size-wise as well, looks about right. Yeah, it seems to work okay. And the one thing I will say with the internals of these is that, considering WE do like to copy stuff, anyone who's looked at their Glock range will know that, it's, their own interpretation of a TM system. Yeah, but this, they didn't really, as far as I can tell, base it off of anything else. They literally came up with all of this pretty much on their own, which, fair play to them. It definitely works. Right, let's bring the bolt back out. Why is it going into auto then? The hammer and the sears definitely look okay. I might clean them up a little bit. Valve knocker seems to work, I guess. Valve locker retracts the valve knocker as well. Now, let's look at our selector. Now, how the selector works is quite a clever idea, really. Obviously, you've got your detent this side, which you can see I've put the selector back through here. And basically what happens is, as you rotate this down, you can see it rotates this and moves sort of in or out of the way of this bar. Now, on safe, it blocks it. So you shouldn't be able to pull the trigger, and it shouldn't release the hammer. So release the auto sear, keep that pushed in there, and as I push forwards, now you can see it did release the hammer because it's pushing this up quite a long way, which I guess if the bolt was in there, it wouldn't do that. Let's try it with the bolt in place then. Now with that in that position, that is in the safe position. So basically, pulling the trigger shouldn't release the hammer, but it does. So I suspect this is worn. Have that spring out. We've got a detent at the end here as well, we've got to be very careful of. That lifts out of there. Okay, and there's our trigger bar. Now, again, it's a bit of a strange setup because essentially what happens is you've got your trigger, which is there, which has this little lug on it, and basically what happens is the lug is sort of in here, and as you pull in on the trigger, it's sort of pulling or pushing the trigger bar, basically. And you've got your sort of spring in here, which is your detent to sort of keep it in position. That looks a bit loose, so that could do with tightening. I don't think that's our problem, though. Nothing looks bent. Nothing looks super worn. To be fair, there are certain parts which wear out on these, but I'll be honest with you, it all looks pretty good at the moment, I would honestly say. It looks like it's got wear, but I wouldn't say it's excessive. Yeah, see, that's not too worn, in my opinion. But so far, the rest of this looks to be, you know, in an okay state, really. Nothing, it's got some wear, but nothing's excessive. Everything seems all right and within tolerance. So, yeah, I don't really know with this one. It's a bit unusual. So, right, let's put those over one side. Let's have a look at this bolt then, because there's definitely something not quite right with this. It's really just sticking and it's just not great. Right, what? So this video is dragging on a little bit now. You can see that I've been struggling to identify where the issues were. I had a look at this bolt and we could tell that the nozzle spring was obviously stretched, deformed. I'll skip to that in a moment so you can see it. But certainly the lower, there was many parts were worn, but not excessively. So what basically we ended up doing was ordering a load of bits and pieces, which you'll see in the next video. But essentially we had lots of parts which are all very, very worn. So I had a bit of a decision to make with it, which you'll see what I did next time. But we're obviously going to strip the bolt down now, as you can see what's what in here. It was okay, but there are quite a few bits missing, which again is obviously just going to be a problem with these, especially if people have had them apart a few times, which clearly it has been. So you can see the nozzle was running freely okay, but one of the guides was missing. So yeah, we'll go from there. Look at how long that pin is. Right, we should be able to take our nozzle out now. Why is it still sticking in there? Bet this one is. No, not even tight. Yeah, there we go. That was what was holding it in. Right, inside there looks pretty good. Let's have a look at this then. So this spring has been folded over, which is basically what happens. What will happen is the end will break off and then, you know, you sort of stretch it and fold it over. It's a standard WE thing. The rest of the nozzle looks pretty good though. Nothing obvious. Yeah, valve and spring are all fine. They're all stock. Right, well you can see straight away our nozzle spring is stretched, which will be why it's sort of, you know, it needs to be sitting like that really. Whereas if the spring is in its current position, which is there, you can see it's hanging out the back. So we're basically going to have to shorten that down. Try and fold ourselves a coil over, like so. There we go. There we go, and then that's poking out the back just the right amount now, and that should work a lot better now. All right, well, let's put this back in. Now, I'd be tempted to find a different pin for the back, but I don't think I'm going to have anything quite that small. Obviously, the reassembly of the bolt is just the reverse of what we've already done. So just putting all this back together. I was debating putting a new pin in the back because the pin was quite short. Unfortunately, I didn't have anything that was the right size, which was kind of irrelevant in the end anyway. But yeah, so far getting everything back together. This is at the point where I realised there is actually a guide missing on the bolt, which is why the nozzle was sticking a little bit, which I was having problems with at the start. Well, at the moment, I can't see anything obvious. There's obviously something not quite right, but at the moment, everything appears to be all right. So we'll have it cocked, which it now is. So I should be able to pull the trigger, it'll drop the hammer, and as I cock the action, semi-auto works. Okay, put it in auto. Yeah, that works. Okay, into safe. Okay, safe is still not working. Now, one of the problems I had with this before was that it used to run away. So basically, it would just continue to fire in auto until it stopped. So mag in. There we go. Right, let's try it. So we're in safe. Right, there you go. And that's what it did before. So make sure it's in semi. Let's try it again. Okay. So you can see we've still got issues. And this is where I realised that we were having more serious issues with it. Upon reflection, having looked at it after the filming of this video, I come to the conclusion that we just had lots of parts that were all very worn. And basically what was happening is the auto sear wasn't holding the hammer in a firm engagement. So as the shock of the bolt coming forwards would sort of hit the receiver, it would then just knock the hammer off the auto sear, and then it would fire again, and that would lead to it running away. So it was one of those things that I really hoped I could sort of to figure out what was causing the problem. In hindsight, it's possible I might have been able to sharpen up the auto sear, but I knew the hammer was quite worn as well. So I had to make a decision on what I did with this, whether it was actually worth fixing. And you'll see in the next video, I did actually get it all fixed, and how I went down that fixing process. So do check out the next video if it's online. If it's not, it'll be online within the next couple of days. And again, if you have any questions about the strip down process, please drop them in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next video.